I wanted a way to be involved in the community, and since moving here I had heard so much negative things about not just council but some of the other boards and commissions that are going on, and just a general unhappiness, and also unhappiness. I noticed that there wasn't a lot of representation for perhaps the young adults who do live in this town and do take part and do vote. And so that was kind of my motivating factor, as well as I was also working on Jim Wallace's campaign for state senate, so I was very politically minded at the time, and that's something that's kind of always been a sidebar on my life, is politics, and so that was kind of my inspiration for running.
All right, so the reason why I decided to go ahead and run for city council is mainly because I felt like, as a citizen of Eureka Springs and as a business owner in Eureka Springs, I needed to be involved. I am currently involved in a couple other commissions at this time, but felt like this was an opportunity to be involved a little bit more than what I am right now. In addition to that, probably one of the negative things that did inspire me to run for city council was really just the back and forth, the bickering that council does right now. And I felt like in order to have change, you have to put yourself out there to do something about it, and this is kind of my way of doing that. So in hopes of making a change there and also of getting other people involved.
I lived in Eureka Springs a little over a year, so it hasn't been super long, but long enough to get acclimated and to really get to know the town.
I have lived in Eureka Springs for 4 years now. I do own a business here, but 4 years ago we decided to go ahead and move here because of the business. We moved from Fort Worth, Texas. We've moved several different times throughout throughout my lifetime, throughout my marriage with my husband, Tom. But 4 years ago, we decided to come to Eureka Springs.
I have not served on any other boards or committees, so this would be the first, and I'm hoping for that opportunity.
So currently I serve on the Planning Commission and also the CAPC. Here in Eureka. I've done that for, I say the CAPC probably for about 2 years, a little bit longer for the Planning Commission, but I am currently on both of those commissions at this time.
I think the preparations that are required for this position is, of course, an understanding of the town and its people are extremely important, but also the ability to research the issues. That has been something that I've noticed might not necessarily be done as of late, and so I think finding out as much as you can, both sides of the issue, is important, and is something that I'm used to doing all the time. My degree is practically in research, so.
All right, so the question was asked, what preparations are needed in order to be part of City Council? This one makes me kind of giggle because I don't know of any training course that's out there for City Council. I do feel though that I am aware of things that are happening in Eureka Springs. As I mentioned on one of the other questions, being a part of Planning Commission and being part of the CAPC has allowed me to at least be aware of the issues that are here in Eureka Springs. So I do feel like that I'm not living under a rock, and I do know some of the issues that are here, and so therefore I feel like I am qualified and do have a good understanding of Eureka Springs.
I've always, growing up, been in model government. From the time I was very little, I even ran the whole model government thing for my school system and the county-wide one as well. And I carried that through my schooling, and so I was acquainted with things like Robert's Rules, which is the governing order of business for the council, and so I've had an understanding of that since I was very little, and that and having a unique perspective on the town from the way I was introduced to it, as well as being a part of very different social circles within the town kind of gives me a unique perspective on the town.
So qualifications that I do have that I feel would benefit the city of Eureka Springs would be that I've got 10 plus years in banking and investment advisory services. I've obviously not served here in Eureka Springs, but elsewhere throughout the U.S. In addition to that, I also have 10 plus years in global hospitality and digital marketing. So I feel like those are both things that can be a positive contribution to being part of the Eureka Springs City Council.
I do not have any future planned or current conflicts of interest. I do not currently own a business in the city, and I don't foresee that happening in the near future.
All right, so as a disclaimer, do I have any conflicts of interest or anything that I feel would come up or has come up or is currently a conflict of interest here in Eureka Springs with any of the positions that I'm currently holding and or the business that I do own here in Eureka Springs? The answer would be no. I don't see any conflict of interest at this time.
The first issue that I feel is important to address is civility, not just between the council and its public, but also between members of the council. I feel is something that civility, I feel, is something that has been lacking in the past and is a necessity for a governing body to function properly. The second issue that I feel is important is understanding an issue, and if you don't understanding an issue, taking the time to do the research, do your background checks, and find out more about that issue that you are, as a member of the council, required to have a say on. And I feel like you cannot properly have a say if you are not properly educated on the issues. The third thing, and perhaps the most important thing, I feel is for the council to actually listen to its people. It is a rare trait, and it is something, it is probably perhaps one of the biggest complaints I have heard from everyone I have talked to, is how they are not being heard. And it is the council's job as their governing body to be representatives of the people, not of themselves.
All right, so a couple things that I'd like to address if I am actually voted in for City Council here in Eureka Springs. I've got three things that are on my major bullet list, and for the most part are why I'm running. Number one is financial responsibility. I expect the city to have financial responsibility. We as citizens pay taxes. We expect that money to be spent wisely. The second thing that I am passionate about here in Eureka Springs is economic development. So where are we going? What are we doing to get there? And I know one of the things people always ask is, where are we going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? So economic development is a biggie for me. The other one that is a major item that I have great concern over is internal structures and systems. And the reason I say that is because if we are consistent in what we do over and over and over again, and we have those things in place, then therefore the city runs more smoothly. We become less likely be sued or to get ourselves into legal trouble. So those are the three things that I am focusing on as far as this campaign goes and this election goes, and I am looking forward to being able to address those in the coming year.
Three things that I think the council needs to address. First and foremost is fostering better relationships between its sister organizations. That would be such as parks. This is something that has come up recently, and I feel like is very important and needs to be addressed, because a city itself cannot function unless all of its bodies are functioning together. And a second thing I think is important is integrating institutions that have been created, such as the community center, further into our town. Any institution that offers education and opportunities to people, I feel, is extremely important and essential to a community and in order for a community to prosper. And so there needs to be a better working relationship between them. And then the third thing I feel council needs to address is the manner in which ordinances are created and passed. I feel like in the past, many ordinances have been created more with the intent to punish than to update and maintain the municipal code. And that is the purpose of ordinances, is to maintain and update and make current the municipal code, and not to punish the citizens in any way.
Three critical issues that I've addressed on another question prior to this are basically the same things. It's economic development, it is financial responsibility, and then internal structure. So I still feel that those are things that need to be addressed. There is a 2-year term for city council, so when those things will be addressed, I would assume they'll be pretty quickly. As far as financial responsibility, that's something that's ongoing and wouldn't be able to be ignored for any amount of time. The other issue is economic development, and then of course the other would be the internal structures and systems. So how those are handled, of course, economic development and financial responsibility would be immediate, and then I would like to be able to focus on the internal structure issues as well throughout the 2-year term.
As far as the medical marijuana industry that's coming to the area, I definitely do see benefits, not just medicinal, but as well as economic. It is something that could provide jobs for the area, which is definitely something that are complaints that I have heard from the younger citizens. It is hard to find jobs in this area, and so anything that can bring and create more jobs, I feel is going to be beneficial. As far as council having any sort of contact and involvement in that, I feel like there has to be a tiny bit. It is part of the area, it is part of the community, and therefore there's going to be at least a small, minuscule contact with it.
All right, so the topic right now is medical marijuana in Eureka Springs. As far as I know right now, I know that some growing facilities have been awarded through the state of Arkansas. At this time, it is my understanding that no dispensaries have been awarded at this time, so it's really kind of hard to answer the question, not knowing whether or not Eureka Springs will get one or they will not get one. As far as if they did, I do think that number one, planning needs to be involved. Typically everything goes through planning as far as codes and what would need to be in place, and then of course it goes through city council. So planning and city council would definitely need to be involved because it's something brand new to Eureka Springs, something brand new to Arkansas, and I'm sure there will be a lot of kinks and things to work out along the way. But that's where I stand right now. I do believe there should be involvement from planning and city council, and we'll wait and see if we get a dispensary.
That would be an absolute yes. They are a large part of our community. They are importantly part of our community, and we wouldn't have our community without them residing here. And so that is a resounding yes from me.
So I believe that everybody has the ability to be who they are. You have to be comfortable doing what you believe is right for you. If you're kind to me, I'll be kind to you. I believe that everybody has the opportunity to do what they believe is right for them. So do I support the LGBT community? Yes, I do. Do I frequent LGBT businesses? Yes, I do. If someone served me a meal that wasn't any good, I might not go back, but I do support them. But again, you have to be comfortable doing what you're doing yourself. And I try to treat people just the same as everybody else. So that would be my answer to that question.
I have read the municipal code in its entirety quite recently, actually. And as far as things that need to be updated, I believe it is section 7.65 was particularly one that stood out to me, especially the wording of it. It is the one that deals with, it's the discrimination, the anti-discrimination contract, if you will, the city has. And there was a lot of wording in it that I felt allowed for discrimination of people, of particularly instances that you were finding all over the country of discrimination against people for their sexual identity and gender identity as well. And I know of several instances in this town where that has occurred. And unfortunately, it is a hard thing to prove. But part of that is because of the wording of those codes. And I don't feel like it completely protects the people of this town from that eventuality or that possibility from happening.
And are there codes that are not, are the codes being enforced?
And some of the codes I feel are being enforced. I feel like it's kind of a pick and choose part of that, though.
I have not read the entire city code book. I've read a lot of it, being on planning, but I have not read the entire code book, and I'd be lying to you if I said I did. Do I believe that there are codes that are still in existence that need to be revised? I believe there are, depending upon in what context you're reading things. Sometimes you can go one way or the other on those particular codes. So yes, I do believe there are things. We, on planning, being part of planning, we did find some things that were kind of funky, that were maybe true 50 years ago but aren't true in 2018. So there are, I'm sure, plenty of codes that need to be revised. As far as enforcement goes, that's kind of a biggie with me, especially being on planning, is that are codes being enforced? Obviously, I don't have access to every single code that is being addressed or brought up throughout the week down at City Hall. I just don't. I'm not on those commissions. I'm not sitting there as a staff member. But I do believe, again, that consistency is important. And if you have those systems in place and you follow those again and again and again, then there's no reason why code wouldn't be enforced the way it should be. And therefore, it just makes life a whole lot simpler. So are they being enforced now? I couldn't tell you, because I'm not living that world right now.
I hope to see Eureka Springs prospering even more than we are now. I know we've kind of been having a slow year this year, and I know that kind of happens cyclically, but I hope to see more involvement from people in their community. and I hope to see that being fostered by city council, by other organizations in the community, and hope to see more integration and not socialization, but interactions between this kind of divide that has been created between the older residents of the city and the younger residents of the city. And I hope to see more interaction, and again, I hope to see that fostered by the various organizations of the community.
I see Eureka Springs in 5 years exactly where it is now, if nothing changes. We have to change. The town has to change. If it stays exactly where it is right now, I see there being fewer tourists. I see there being fewer jobs, less income for our people. And of course, because of that, inevitably, what will happen is, because the city has bills and things that they must pay on a regular basis, our taxes will go up. And I'm not a biggie for taxes. So I do believe that we need to change. We've got to figure out how to bring more people back to Eureka Springs. Tourism has been in Eureka Springs forever. After the water, the healing waters went away, it became a tourist town. And, some of the things that are negative to tourists that people do read about, I've heard it from people that have stayed with us. The stories about no plastic bags in Eureka Springs. That's a ding. No banning smoking in Eureka Springs. That's a ding. Some of the other things that are going on in town that get out to surrounding areas that are a negative on Eureka Springs. So really, I see the town being exactly where it is. I've been here almost 4 years, and I haven't seen huge changes. There are some positive things in Eureka Springs right now, and so I hope that continues to grow, like the biking trails and things like that. But we've got to change. We absolutely have to change, or we'll be exactly where we are right now.
So I obviously hope come November that you would potentially vote for me, but if nothing else, at least vote, get out, be involved in the decision-making process.
Thank you for considering me for City Council in the November election coming up 2018. I do pledge to do the best that I possibly can for the citizens of Eureka Springs. I look forward to the opportunity. I ask for your vote in November of 2018.